Who are my top 30 free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins? We're going to go over it today in great detail of how they fit schematically. I got some film for the top 10 guys. We're going to talk about what the contract projections for all 30 players are. Plus, I got some honorable mentions. So we're going to dive deep into that. Plus, we have the number of what Chubb's restructure has freed up. We will discuss that. Plus, the Miami Dolphins move off of another edge rusher, and could edge be in the cards for them in free agency or in the draft? Listen, do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, as we are just over 20 away from 17K, and we got a big giveaway coming at 20K. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and as always, let's get into this one.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one. Appreciate each and every one of you joining me for this Saturday matinee. Man, I've been hard at work getting this free agent video. Listen, if I didn't do the in-depth research, if I didn't do the film, I could have had this video out on Monday, okay? So, but I always like to bring the best and top-notch content to you guys. When I attack something, I attack it fully. FYI. My first big board will be coming out. I am aiming for March 18th in 10 days. I will have my first draft big board dropping. Then a week after that, the second big board will be dropping. So get on the train and let's ride this, baby. And the first big board that I'll be dropping, you know I had to do it. We're going to be dropping that quarterback big board upon your dome March 18th, all right? So 10 days away and big board season's upon us, all right? We're going to let free agency play out a little next week, and then we're going to get right into it, man. So let's get into this, but before we do, shout out to the homie Knight in the chat right now. He says, did you see Woolen freak out? Greer make the call. And for all of you who don't know what he's talking about, Tariq Woolen, who is like tweeting out a bunch of GIFs, losing his mind on Twitter after Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders yesterday for just a third-round pick. This after Tyler Lockett is no longer with them, and DK Metcalf has requested a trade. It's getting blown up in Seattle right now. Let's put it that way. So apparently, word on the street is they are really in on Sam Darnold. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. They are really in on Sam Darnold, and that seems like it might be their game plan right now. You know what's crazy too, Knight? I don't know. I was going over like 2 nights ago. I was going over just my man crushes, because I've actually finished my man crush list. You know, usually I drop my man crush list at the beginning of April, you know, in end of March. I'm going to do it end of March. I've already completed it. So I'm going to drop it in like 2 weeks. Probably I'll drop my man crush list. But I was just going over my past man crush lists for the draft. And I forgot that I had Tariq Woolen as one of my man crushes in that 2022 draft. So I'm down. Shout out to PL. He says, appreciate you. I appreciate you too, sir. Thank you very much. Hey, Reason, if Dart or Sanders on the board at 13, first of all, it would be Dart for me. Dart's my quarterback too. I'm not super high on Shedeur. I have him as my quarterback 3. And let me tell you this. I struggled with not putting Tyler Shaw above him. Like there are real. I don't know, man. Let me put it this way: if someone had Sanders as quarterback 5 or quarterback 6 on their board, I actually probably wouldn't hate on them because I struggled with putting him there too. You know, I'm completely freaking honest with you. You know, like I don't know. You want a bold take? You want a really bold draft take? Here's one for you. The NFL might be higher on Quinn Ewers than they are on Shedeur Sanders. If you want a bold take, the NFL might be higher on Quinn Ewers than they are Shedeur Sanders. There's a bold take for you. I don't know. But to answer your question, no, I wouldn't take either at 13. Dart is my Q. I only have one. I don't even think I. Hold on. Let me just double check the grades. I'm pretty sure I don't even have a. Yeah. I don't even have a first round grade on a quarterback. Cam Ward is like a top of second round first round grade. I don't even have a first round grade on a quarterback this year. I have 15 first round grades. I'd have to reopen my phone and check it. But I've got 15 first round grades, and yeah, none of them are quarterbacks. If his name wasn't Sanders, Howard would go before. I don't think he would, bro. Dude, Will Howard. I'm telling y'all, Will Howard, whoever told him to throw at the combine, that was bad career advice. I'm going to tell you this right now. Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel might have completely tanked their stock at the combine. Dart, Tyler Shaw, and Quinn Ewers were the players all the scouts and everyone in the leagues came away talking about. You know? But I get your point. I'm just saying, I don't think people are very high on Will Howard at all. At all. So, you know. What else we got here I wanted to talk about? Andre James. I don't know if you guys saw this yesterday, but I don't know if you guys happened to catch the news, but the Raiders, they also released their center, Andre James. And why does that matter to me? Because Andre James was actually the original plan last offseason. The original plan wasn't Aaron Brewer. The original plan was Andre James. And good day to you, Urban Poseidon. So I'm wondering if, listen, Andrew Myers our only backup center. Now, Andre James is probably going to go and try and get a starting job. But if he's willing to take a backup role, I wonder if they're really interested in that. Because I know that was their plan last year. So, I did find it interesting that Andre James got released. Another interesting thing that may impact the Miami Dolphins, Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau signed a new deal today with the Buffalo Bills. It's crazy. I didn't think he'd, not 4 years, $80 million extension with $54 million guaranteed. I haven't been super high on Rousseau since I'm not like a huge guy. He's okay. But what does that matter? That might set the market for a guy like, or the baseline for a guy like like Jalen Phillips. Now, I've already talked about this in depth. I mean, I did a freaking video on it. I would not personally extend him until after he plays it out. You know, I'm good. You know, I'm good. I think, obviously, Jalen Phillips is a much better player than Greg Rousseau. Much better player than Greg Rousseau. A lot more explosiveness to his game, right? So, personally, you know, I wouldn't even look at this contract right now because the market's going to be different. I know people are out there trying to say, hey, you know, this is a baseline. I wouldn't even look at it like that right now because the market's going to be different by the time Jalen Phillips has to be paid. That's just where we're at. So, yeah. Would there be a world where I don't know? I think it's more likely we move back. It would make more sense if we move back. You know? So, Greg Rousseau gets paid. I'll be more worried if they get DK Metcalf. Now, Xavier Worthy. I mean, I tell you, the Kansas City Chiefs and their wide receivers, if it ain't like it's I don't know what's going on in Kansas City. I don't know what's in the water out there. I don't know what is going on. But Xavier Worthy was arrested Friday night in Williamson County, Texas. He has a criminal charge of assault against a family or household member by impeding their breathing or circulation. Wow. Remember, we had Rashid Rice last year with his hit and run speeding on the highway. I mean, geez Louise right now over there in, I don't know what's in the water for the Chiefs. I really have no idea what's going on there, but like, man, I gotta say this, and I'm not even trying to make light of the situation. Shout out to Andy Reid for keeping these basket cases in check and locked in to get the most out of them during the season. Holy jeez. I mean, think about this. You know, like Tyreek Hill had a domestic violence while he was there. Kareem Hunt had a domestic violence. Frank Clark, Xavier Worthy, Rashid Rice had the hit and run. Like, it is crazy. Kadarius Toney's been arrested in recent years. Like, my Lord. And you know what's going to make the most sense, right? You know what's going to make the most sense, right? They're going to draft. I guarantee you, watch it. They're going to draft. They're going to draft Kyron Lacy from Louisiana State. You watch it. You watch it. You watch it. That's exactly what they're going to do. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, right now, Kyron Lacy, he's basically facing charges of negligent homicide and felony hit and run. So, if that doesn't scream Kansas City Chief, I don't know what does. All right. If that does, I don't know if Kyron Lacy doesn't scream Kansas City Chief, then I don't know who does right now. Holy jeez. My God. I'm gonna go and try and get the next great Louisiana receiver. Unbelievable. So, yeah, that's nuts to me. Again, shout out to Andy Reid for keeping these guys under check. Man, my Lord. Anyways, all right, let's start getting into some stuff here. We got a lot to go over today, all right? We got a ton to go over. So, with that said, we will get into the first thing on our docket, and that is we know how much money Chubb cleared up. Tom Pelissero reported that Bradley Chubb, that restructure, cleared about $26.3 million. So you know what? Me and Neil ended up not being far off at all. When you break it down, we projected them, right? Because we didn't have that Chubb number yet. But we did project them to be a little over $25 million, right? So right now we are about 28. If you look at it right now, between Teron Armstead, who slashed his base salary from $13.3 million to $1.2 million, right? That lowered his cap hit from $23 million to $8.9. Bradley Chubb now lowering his cap hit from 28.7 to 12.4. This basically lines us up where we've got about $28.4 million in cap space right now. But like me and Neil stressed, what can you do now? You have almost about $30 million. Let's go around. Let's round up. $30 million. Okay. Now you can go hit free agency. You can make your moves and you can clear cap as you need. So, like, I know a lot of people don't want to clear out their cap by restructuring Tua. A lot of people are like, now I've told you this is probably going to be part of the plan. It was part of the plan when they made that deal, injury or not. That's just what a lot of these quarterbacks are doing when they sign these big deals. So my whole thing here is, look at it this way. Let's say there's someone out there you really want. Okay? Now, a guy who didn't make my top 30 free agent list strictly because of his cost. All right? Let me use him as an example. Okay? You could clear up $19 million from Tua. And you could use 15 or 16 of that to go get a Trevon Moehrig to be the stud of your secondary. You know, would you do that? If clearing up that $19 million meant getting a Trevon Moehrig. If clearing up that $19 million meant a guy who didn't make my free agent list because of the cost got you a Nick Bolton. Would you do that? You know? That's something to consider. You know, there's players who are just going to be out of our range because of their cost. Go look at the corner market right now. If you want some of those top corners, you are going to be in around the $20 million range. That's just the fact of the matter of where it is right now. You know, if you want Murphy from Minnesota, it's going to cost you about $20 million right now. Right? So, again, I ask you, if that money can be cleared up just by restructuring Tua, would you do it? Because that's adding in it. Like, but the point of it is, would you clear up Tua's money to add an impact player? Right? Do you want to add a Byron Murphy Jr.? You want to add a Chavarius Ward, an impact corner? Would you restructure? I think that's a real question. You know, if it's an impact player, yeah. I think where you'll lose some people in this fan base is if you restructure that $19 million and you go bargain bin shopping with the $19 million. You know, you try to stretch it into 5 or 6 players. You know, I think, you know, you get one impact player or 2 really good players for that $19 million. You can sell that to this fan base. You try and stretch that into 4 or 5 players, you're going to have a hard time selling that to this fan base. Shout out to you, Tavillas Tinker. Listen, let me tell you this, Tavillas. All right? Let me tell you what time it is, all right? I know I was out there 2 summers ago, but we might be coming back to the Bahamas because we just loved it so much, man. We might be coming back this summer, man. So, yeah, you got to think about it in that sense. If I can add a impact player, then I'm going to. I'm sorry. No, free agency doesn't open on Tuesday. Free agency opens up 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Now, that's on the March 12th. On March 10th, the tampering window opens. That's what we're all waiting for, right? That tampering window opens up, and that opens up at 12 p.m. on Monday, the tampering window. All right? So tampering opens up on Monday at 12. Free agency opens up Tuesday at 4 p.m. All right? So those are your key dates. Now, Miami, what did they do here? The Miami Dolphins have informed Quinton Bell that they will not be tendering him. He will now become a free agent Wednesday afternoon. I mean, is anyone really shocked here? What did Quinton Bell really do? I mean, let's be real here. Let's be real here. All that preseason hype coming out. How he's gonna be a contributor, blah blah blah. Like, come on, man. That guy was faded. Like, how many games in this season? 3 or 4 games in this season. Man, I saw people on X were hyping this guy like crazy coming out of training camp, like he was gonna be some kind of difference maker. It just did not end up happening. I mean, are you gonna see me shed a tear that Quinton Bell is no longer a Miami Dolphin? No, you're not going to. I'm sorry. Because we got a lot bigger fish to fry than Quinton Bell. And you know what? There's some intriguing edges on the market. There really are. And when you add in the fact that now you got a healthy Phillips and Bradley Chubb to add in with Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara, you probably want to give him more snaps. Listen, I'd still add an edge just in case. I really would. I wouldn't be playing around with that. I would add another edge, whether it's in free agency or the draft, just in case. So we'll see how it all plays out. But man, we got high hopes for this pass rush unit as long as they stay healthy. That's the key thing. Another one Scotty just named in the chat, Grayson Murphy. One of the highest pressure rates in the FBS when we drafted him. So, we want to see what these young bucks got. Now there are a few edges I would add. There is an edge I think they'll be eyeing, and we'll talk about that we're about to get into my top 30 free agents in just a minute here. Now, I do think there's someone they're going to be eyeing, and there's someone I would personally add because I was really high on him coming out of Phillips' draft. So, I do think there's going to be options. You know what I mean? So, but, kind of like that safety room, how it needs to be rebuilt, the depth at edge, I think, needs to be tweaked a little bit. And that's what I meant. You need to step. This is why Mo Kamara, when he led the team, tied for the team lead in pressures against the Colts, why are you not giving him more snaps? Let's figure out what we got going into this year, right? Let's figure out, is he worth more of the investment or is he not? Now, I know they're bringing Cameron Good back, you know what I mean? But I want to see what the you had a chance to give Mo Kamara a lot more snaps last year. And you could figure out what the investment is going to be with, okay, do we pivot? Blah, 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 blah. So, but that's the route they went. There was a couple of things that were really odd to me with how rookies were handled last year. And I felt Mo Kamara was one of them after the game against the Colts. led the team in pressures in that Colts game, and then he's riding the pine. Okay. And it's not like he had, it's not like he had, 70 or 80% of the defensive snaps, and you saw he's just putrid against the run, and you're like, okay, I just can't put him out there. So, anyways, let's get into my top 30 free agents for the Miami Dolphins in the 2025 free agent draft class. Okay? Now, let's get into a few things that I do want to tell you guys in terms of like notes. All right? Like little takeaways from what I'm about to get into. Yes, there's a couple high-priced guys, but I stayed away from like super high-priced guys because they're not going to spend that money. So why bother? Why bother? Like, Nick Bolton. Everyone knows Nick Bolton was on my man crush list for when he came out of the draft. He's not on this list because he's probably going to be the top-paid linebacker. Javon Hargrave just got released. I didn't put him on this because he's probably going to be the top-paid defensive tackle. Trevon Moehrig. I didn't put Trevon Moehrig on this because, I didn't put Justin. I would have put Trevon Moehrig on, but I didn't put Justin Reed on it. I didn't put Javon Holland on it. I didn't put Bynum on it because these guys are going to get paid, 17 to 20 million a year, and we're not paying that for a safety. So I just didn't put those guys on here. Now, a couple of guys that I did want to put on there but just missed the cut. Tyler Conklin, tight end, Jets. Josh Uche, edge. We all remember him with the Patriots. He's bumped around a little bit since then. Kevin Zeitler, guard. Right? Remember him from the Ravens, Lions, etc. A little long in the tooth, but still playing at a good level. And a slot option in Jordan Lewis. These are some names. So if you had... I got 7 guys who would have made the list if I would have kept going. Jordan Lewis, Kevin Zeitler, Josh Uche, Trevon Moehrig, Tyler Conklin, Javon Hargrave, and Nick Bolton. But like I said, Nick Bolton, Hargrave, and Moehrig, financially, it wouldn't have made sense to put them on here. Okay? So I want to get that out of the way. All right? So, yeah. I want to put that out there so everyone knows where we're going here. All right? So let's get into this. You already know what time it is, baby. Let's start off with 30 to 11, and then from 10 to 1, we'll do further in-depth breakdowns and some film. But I got breakdowns on 30 to 11, so let's get into it. Number 30, Mike Williams. He's battled injuries, obviously. He's missed about 25 games or so in his career with a torn ACL, small fracture in his back, etc. Screams career guy, huh? Williams has been a top receiving option in the NFL before and offers the size, contested catchability, and red zone threat the Miami Dolphins are missing opposite of their speed. Spot Track projects him at $4.5 million a year. PFF projects him at about $6 million a year. But this is what I'll say. If he's willing to take a deal between $2 to $4 million a year, with low guarantees and high upside, then I'd take a flyer on him. If I'll give you a 1-year deal, $4 million, and like $1.5 million or $2 million guaranteed. Number 29, Mike Jackson. He's a solid, cheap boundary option for the Dolphins. Also has special team snaps in his career. Though the Panthers had one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, Mike Jackson posted a career high in pass breakups, 13, and interceptions. He had 2. As the lone bright spot in that secondary, which PFF had him graded the highest in. Spot Track has him projected at about $7.7 million a year. And I think the $6 to $7 million a year on a 2-year deal with not much guaranteed on the back end, that would make a ton of sense. Number 28 for me, I got Azeez Ojulari. Okay, he's one of my man crushes from the 2021 draft. He was my top edge player next to Jalen Phillips in that draft. The Giants haven't gotten anywhere near his potential out of him. Think about this. Under Weaver, I think he can grow as a run stopper and break out. I want you to remember, Azeez Ojulari had 8.5 sacks as a rookie. He set the Giants franchise record as a rookie. And he had 5.5 in year 2 as an NFL pro. So, he's projected to make $5 million a year by PFF and $7.6 million a year by Spot Track, to which I think if you get him more around that $5 million a year range projected by PFF, you could have a player that exceeds contract value big time under Weaver if everything goes right. And with Chubb and Phillips in their histories, that is a high upside insurance policy. Number 27, Tyrell Dodson, has 3 interceptions with the Dolphins after they acquired him from the Seahawks with a real strong showing in that Green Bay and that Cleveland game. Fit like a glove into this defense, only got better with more reps. Like, I'd love to see him brought back as LB2, LB3. Spot Track has him projected at $5.5 million a year, while PFF has him at about $5 million a year, which is a slight bump up from the $4.26 million a year he was just on. Number 26, everyone's sleeping on the running backs. Everyone's sleeping on it. Number 26, A.J. Dillon, one of my man crushes from the 2020 NFL Draft. Do y'all remember how dominant he was against boxes in college? He was an absolute monster. And he continues to be a short yardage, pound the rock kind of guy. Good speed, good explosiveness for a guy who's 247 pounds. Missed 2024 with the neck stinger, but he's been reliable health-wise other than 2024 with that neck stinger. He's amassed 2,428 yards. He averages 4.1 yards per carry, 2.96 yards after contact per attempt, 16 touchdowns, 728 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns in 60 games. Spot Track has it projected at $2 million a year, people. Sign me up. $2 million a year for A.J. Dillon? Come on. Number 25, Will Hernandez. Obviously, the 2 big glaring red flags with Hernandez. He's coming off of a season-ending knee injury, and he'll be 30 in 2025. Miami apparently wanting to incorporate more inside zone power runs. Hernandez would slide in perfectly at right guard, but also offers you left guard flexibility. The price tag, it just makes sense for the Miami Dolphins and fits what Greer could be shopping for in terms of low cost, high production players. If they stay healthy, Spot Track has him earning $4.3 million a year. PFF, they have him earning only about $4.75 million a year. That makes a ton of sense for them. I'm not saying that like he's my favorite. Like, look how low he is on the list. But for how we know the shopping tendencies of Greer scream he's gonna love Will Hernandez. Luke Farrell, 24, only tight end that made the list. Not a fan of the tight end class. I think he's a cheap inline option. It's a very underwhelming tight end class. Bring him in to compete with Julian Hill for tight end 3, with the thought of drafting a potential tight end from this year's deep class. Farrell's a solid, reliable blocking option who won't consistently whiff on assignments like Julian Hill when you want to run your 12 personnel sets. And Spot Track only projects him making about $1.5 million a year. Number 23, Mike Hughes. The Dolphins need to fill the void left by the release of Fuller. Mike Hughes is coming off a year where he had 4 pass breakups and only allowed 2 touchdowns in coverage. He's only 28. He's been playing the best ball of his career the last 2 years, allowing 3 touchdowns in coverage over that span. Yet he's only allowed 1 touchdown in 2023. But what really matters is the rates that the Falcons ran zone and man coverage in 2024 were almost identical to the Dolphins, and Hughes can play both, making him a fit in Miami while he offers you legit boundary slot flexibility. Spot Track projects him out at around $4.6 million a year. Perfect add to get in the mix with Kohu, Cam Smith, and a player you take in the draft. Number 22, Matthew Judon. The Dolphins have tried to trade for Judon in the past, so we know there's interest and it's real. Plus, he's still producing at age 32, even though he's technically coming off a down year. Judon had 32 sacks over 38 games before he suffered a torn lower bicep in 2023. I don't think he's hit a wall in that he can't produce at a high level again. And I think a 1-year prove-it deal under Weaver, where he has shots at the Patriot, he's got 2 shots at the Patriots that did him dirty over the contract dispute. I think that'd motivate him. Spot Track projects him to only land a contract in the range of $4.5 million a year, to be an absolute bargain. That's a definition of a low risk, high reward that Chris Greer loves. Number 21, Marcus Mariota. I know this won't be a popular opinion, but I actually thought Marcus Mariota, I thought he was really good when he had the chance to operate the Commanders' offense last year. And he's definitely an upgrade over anything we've had back up Tua, who he also has a great relationship with. He was really good against the Panthers and the Cowboys last year. While he's got legitimate starting experience in the NFL, and though he's not the most polished passer, he's definitely gotten better with age and reps. Made $6 million last year. He's projected by Spot Track to get a deal around $4.2 million a year. I do think he lands more than that. So it's still good enough for a team that has injury concerns. And no, Marcus Mariota would not prevent me from drafting a Kyle McCord or someone like that if they're there on day 3. Number 20, Justin Simmons. Miami's not going to be able to afford Trevon Moore, Justin Reed, Javon Holland, or Bynum. But there's a few on this list, starting with Simmons, that you could double up in on free agency for the cost of one of those guys. Simmons' production dipped in 2024 with the Falcons, but so did everyone under Jimmy Lakes, the defensive coordinator who got fired in January after one season. But I think Simmons, at 31, still has a few years of good ball left in him under the right defensive coordinator, which I believe Weaver would be. Spot Track projects him at about $5.8 million a year, and PFF isn't that far off. They project him at about $6 million a year. Sign me up. Treshaun Wharton. He's only 26 years old. He's coming off his best season where he posted 6.5 sacks, 24 defensive stops, 42 pressures. He offers you flexibility along the defensive front too. You can line up best from the 3 tech all the way to inside as a 0. PFF projects him to come in around $8.25 million a year. Spot Track projects him at about $7.4 million a year. I think that's a quiet good add if you could add him. Number 18, Tevin Jenkins. One of my favorite players from the 2021 draft class. Tevin Jenkins adds the nastiness we want to see inside the trenches. He's a mauler in the run game. He's gotten better each year as a pass blocker. He's a good athlete with quick feet that can move in space and finish off blocks. He's been kicked into guard and played both the left and the right before finally setting in at right guard in Chicago. But the multiple spot guard flexibility is there and a plus. He will not be cheap. PFF sees him earning around $13.33 million a year. Spot Track has him at about $10.3 million a year. Now, he's the type of player that if you can get around $10 million, you make that investment. Number 16, I think this is going to surprise people. Jedrick Wills Jr. Walk with me, as the kids say. Jedrick Wills Jr. may surprise some people by making this list, but Armstead is an unknown in terms of his return or retirement. Patrick Paul is an unknown in terms of his development. Austin Jackson is always hurt. Kendall Lamb needs to be moved on from and miss me with Keon Smith. While Wills Jr. is a first-round pick from 2020. Well, the Dolphins need a swing tackle. And the fact they got passable snaps from Eichenberg and Robert Jones, I think this is a high-upside reclamation project for the Dolphins and a much-needed insurance policy at tackle given the unknowns. Remember, he played right tackle at Alabama, but he got kicked to left tackle in Cleveland. Spot Track projects him at only $2.2 million a year. PFF projects him at $3 million a year. Listen, I'm down on taking a swing at those costs given his pedigree and the need at swing tackle right now. If I can get Jedrick Wills Jr. for $2 million, sign me up. Still young. Like, what are we saying here? Number 15, Jamin Sherwood. I loved him last year. I had him in a couple fantasy. He was good. Converted safety to linebacker. I thought Sherwood was really good last year. 98 solo tackles last year. 60 tackle assists, 59 defensive stops, 2 sacks. Really, really good tackler. We could use those. Has coverage skills, flashing instincts needed. He's flashing out of those instincts needed to play linebacker at a high level with still room to grow, which I think Weaver can help with. Spot Track projects him at about $7.2 million a year. PFF is around the same at about $7.75. Number 14, man. You guys have heard my theory. Go sign Simmons and pair him with this guy, Jeremy Chin. He's only 27 still. He's a very effective box defender that can offer you help and run support and some playmaking ability when put into coverage situations. Another cheap, high upside player I could see that would benefit from Weaver's coaching in the defense to find another level to his game. Spot Track projects him at $6.1 million a year. PFF projects him at $7.5 million a year. Again, look at that. Let's take the high end. His projection is $7.5 million on the high end, right? The projection is $7.5 million on that high end. It's $6 million on the high end with Justin Simmons. That's $13.5 million. A guy I forgot to mention here at 17, Dyami Brown. Brown had his best season in 2024 when he finally was targeted more than 25 times, especially down the stretch for the Commanders in the divisional round of the NFC Championship, which is what you want. Players stepping up in big moments. Offers you boundary and slot versatility while strengthening your wide receiver depth. Is only 25 years old, and signing him wouldn't stop you from drafting a wide receiver if the right guy follows you wherever in the draft in a deep class. Spot Track only projects him to make like $1.9 million a year, which I think is perfect given the ascension of Malik. Tyreek and Waddle will get their targets, as will Geno. Tajay Washington will be expected to step up in camp, etc. So, but yeah, man. I mean, you look at Jeremy Chin. So, off their projections, you could add Jeremy Chin and Justin Simmons for $13.5 million. Come on. Number 13, Mekhi Becton. Becton was kicked into left guard last year with the Philadelphia Eagles and thrived, showing his power, ability to open lanes in the run game, and most of all, he managed to finally stay healthy for back-to-back years. Becton is only 25 years old with room to grow as a player, and I think next to a healthy Teron Armstead, if he returns, would create a devastating left side and one of the best in the league. Plus, it relieves pressure off of Aaron Brewer. Becton is expected to earn around $10 million a year, according to Spot Track and PFF, which, given the going rates of top guards, is $20 million plus a year. And Becton's play last year, that could be a steal on a 2 or 3 year deal. So, if you can land him at $10 million a year, man, again, he offers you tackle flexibility. Number 12, put him on here, Darius Slay. Listen, he may be 34, but he's played some of the best football since he's entered his 30s. Slay hasn't allowed a passer rating above 85 in a season since 2020. Well, he's coming off a year where he not only won a Super Bowl, but he set a career high in pass breakups. He had 16. Slay is an interesting and add opposite of Ramsey, as in their primes, that would be the best tandem in the NFL, but I wouldn't guarantee Slay the cornerback 2 role with Kohu in the building, Cam Smith lingering, and the draft approaching. I'd offer him somewhere in the range of what Fuller got last year from Miami. 2 years, $15 million, $10 million guaranteed, and then out after 1 year. That's what I would do. And then number 11, I really like this. This is a sleeper one for me. Andre Cisco. Cisco's from the same draft class as Javon Holland, except he was taken in the 3rd round at pick number 65 instead of in round 2 at pick 36 like Miami used on Holland. Cisco had more interceptions, 7, and pass breakups, 6, then touchdowns allowed in coverage from 2022 to 2023. He only allowed 4. But he took a bit of a step back in 2024, as did a lot of Jaguar players. But he's still a young defender who's only about to turn 25 that can make plays on the perch or in the box at a fraction of the cost under Anthony Weaver. And I honestly think he has another level to unlock. Speaking of, Spot Track has him at $10.8 million a year. PFF has him at $9 million a year. So there you go. Now, let's get into this. All right. What's going on here? Let's get into my top 10. All right. We are going to get into my top 10 here. Now, my top 10, man, it's a different one. It's a different one. I had Cisco at 24, sorry. It's a different one here. Let's get into it. So, my top 10 starts with Levi Onwuzurike. All right. when you look at Onwuzurike, I mean, dude, coming off his best season as a pro, specifically his best season as a pass rusher, where he had 47 pressures and 1.5 sacks. Also had a career high in defensive stops and solo tackles. I think he's the perfect complementary piece to Zach Sealer that can eat snaps as a 3-tech. He plays 61% of Detroit's snaps. Though he's generating pressure more, he still needs to refine his game as a finisher, but his run-stopping ability, that's never been in question. With him only being 27 years old and his lack of finishing potentially holding him back from really cashing in, he could be a player that is outplaying his deal in year 2 or even year 1 of a 3-year deal. Spot Track projects him at about $4.5 million a year. I think he falls closer to PFF's projection of about $8.25 million a year. He might even crack $10 million a year. But you look at this player, this is an impactful player coming from a really good defense with really good coaching, and he's got legitimate high upside to his game. So, big fan of Onwuzurike. Number 9, James Daniels. He's a name we know has intrigued the Miami Dolphins as they did preliminary work last offseason on him in regards to a potential trade when the Steelers had him on the block. Now, when you look at James Daniels, he's played left guard in the past, but where he's really settled in is obviously at right guard. And there's obviously a massive void that needs to be filled there that's been left by Robert Hunt when he dipped on us. So there you go. There's an answer at right guard. He's a good athlete for his size. Some really good lower body explosiveness, though, with a recent Achilles tear he suffered as well as his age. He's now 27. It's just going to remain to see how well he moves now, right, after that injury. But before that injury, man, James Daniels looked like he was improving as a run blocker. He was even more of a dominant pass blocker. He's already seen as a good one. Now, Spot Track projects him at about $7.8 million a year. PFF has him at about $5.5 million a year. I'm going to tell you this much. If he's at $5.5 million a year, good Lord, good God Almighty, go sign him right now. But I think he's going to be more closer to that 7.8 projection. I could even see him coming in around $10-ish million. I don't see a world where he's like $5 million a year. So we'll see. Number 8, ready for a shocker? Yes, Nick Chubb, one of my favorite running backs in the league. I expect to hear pushback on this, but if you want to solve Miami's short yardage problem, why not take a 1-year flyer on someone with this kind of ceiling as a back on a proven deal? He's cut now. He had a torn MCL and a damaged ACL in 2023, but he returned last year, as you can see from the highlights in front of you. But he ended up breaking his foot, and that's going to significantly impact his value, especially considering running back isn't coveted. But when healthy, Nick Chubb is one of the best downhill runners that is explosive in short areas with enough vision and averages about 3.84 yards after contact per attempt. 3-man rotation of Achane, Wright, and a healthy Nick Chubb could feed families and create a formidable backfield for a playoff run. Spot Track hasn't projected to land a $3.3 million deal. PFF is right around the same. They project him to be about $3 million a year. I'm sorry, man. Like, if this guy stays healthy, let's go. You know what the ceiling is on that if he stays healthy? Man, at $2 million a year, $3 million a year, no guaranteed money on that. And if you do guarantee maybe $1 million, that's no risk. Calais Campbell, he's number 7. In one season, he became a fan favorite and one of the top leaders in the Dolphins defensive locker room, which quite frankly, they can't afford to lose from a leadership side. Calais still offers a ton against the run. Still, while being able to generate good pressure numbers, he posted his second best pressure total at 39 since 2019 last year with the Dolphins. He's already a proven partner to pair with Zach Seiler and offers you flexibility in the draft as suddenly DT isn't a glaring need for you. The only downside to Calais is his age, which in turn impacts the amount of snaps he can eat up for the Dolphins defense. So I'd still draft a DT, just I wouldn't be as stressed on the first 2 days. SpotTrack projects him to earn about $7.1 million a year. PFF projects him only making $3 million a year, and it'll have to be the latter for Miami to be in on him. I don't see Miami paying him $7 million a year. But he's going to watch and see how we roster build before he makes a decision. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. So, but hey, I think we'd all welcome Calais back with open arms. That's the leader we need in that room. So number 6 for me is Aaron Banks. I think out of all the offensive linemen on the free agent market, this one makes the most sense due to scheme fit and coach familiarity, as Banks was in San Francisco while Mike McDaniel was as well. Banks has only allowed 1 sack over the last 2 years, and in 2024, he posted a career low in pressures allowed per game as he got it under 2. Aaron Banks is an average to above average run blocker that's a decent athlete, but he shows good awareness, the ability to reach block, drive block, etc., and has quicker feet than his combine testing showed, at least I think. Not only is Aaron Banks only 27, but though he's missed a few games here and there, he's never missed significant time like Teron Armstead, Austin Jackson Jr., Isaiah Wynn. So, I mean, that's a massive positive. PFF projects him. I watched his tape against Chris Jones. He had a great game against Chris Jones. PFF projects him to land an $8.5 million a year deal, while SpotTrack has him at $9.7 million a year. But there are whispers and rumors floating around that he could land in the $18 to $20 million range, which would drop him off this list because they aren't spending that and he isn't worth that. Now, if you're going to come in to the 9 to 12 or 12 to 14 range, let's have the conversation. But they ain't paying 18 to 20 million. Number 5 for me is Talanoa Hufanga. Hufanga is my top 1 at safety when it boils down to cost and fit, as I think he'll be cheaper than Holland, Reed, Morgan, Bynum. Plus, he should be a good fit in the scheme under Weaver in Miami. The 49ers are a more zone-heavy team, as was Miami in 2024, with the only slight difference being San Fran ran more cover 4, while Miami ran more cover 2, but I think Hufanga is most comfortable on the perch, but still offers you flexibility in the box. In coverage, Hufanga has only allowed 1 touchdown over 26 targets the last 2 seasons, and between 2022 and 2023, posted 7 interceptions, though he didn't have one in 2024, but the fact remains, he's a ball hawk when he's at his best. After watching the Dolphins' defensive performance against the Packers in 2024, from a tackling standpoint, you can find solace in the fact that he's a great tackler in space, can offer strong support against the run, and he's only missed 11 tackles over the last 2 years. SpotTrack has him at $11.9 million a year, while PFF has him projected to make about $12.5 million a year, with Holland, Reed, Morrig, Bynum ahead of him, most likely in the free agent pecking order, plus the position itself being undervalued. I'm hoping he can come in at the $10 to $11 million range, which I would be all over him. Pause. Number 4 for me is Dre Greenlaw, another former 49er that I just happen to love as a potential free agent acquisition for the Miami Dolphins, as I believe paired with Jordan Brooks, this could rectify Greer missing out on Roquan Smith with fans if you could land Greenlaw in free agency. Though he's not a pass rush specialist, Greenlaw is a force against the run and the type of tone setter that not only this defense needs to keep adding more of, but what this team desperately needs in general. Before suffering a torn Achilles in Super Bowl 58, which cost him basically all of 2024, he was coming off back-to-back 120-plus tackle seasons, where he also had 120 defensive stops over that span and was also really good in coverage with 3 interceptions and 7 pass breakups. He's only 27 still, is Dre Greenlaw, and like I alluded to earlier, gives you one of the more formidable linebacker tandems in the NFL, especially if you bring back Tyrell Dodson as linebacker 3. PFF projects him at $6 million a year. SpotTrack projects him to get around $6.7 million a year, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's more in the $10 million a year range. But sign me up. Number 3 is Jonathan Allen. He's expected to be released by Washington, and given the interest Neil and I were the first to report last year that the Dolphins had in acquiring Allen via trade, I expect him to be very involved in this market as a final front piece next to Sealer, Chop, Phillips, and Chubb. Allen missed about half of the 2024 season with a torn pectoral muscle, but was on pace for more sacks and solo tackles than the previous season. Jonathan Allen is one of those rare disruptors where he can make his presence felt against both the run and by penetrating the pocket and getting to the quarterback. He also offers you flexibility across the front, similar to what Zach Seiler provides you, which could make them as a combination an absolute matchup nightmare for offenses. After coming off a contract with an annual average of about $18 million a year, I expect him to come down to around $10 to $12 million a year, which falls in line with just under what Zach Seiler is making. So you wouldn't be stepping on the toes of one of your best defenders, if not best defenders. But sign me up for Jonathan Allen, baby. Number 2, Will Fries. Greer, Mike McDaniel, you want us to take your claims that you're going to turn over every stone to fix the offensive line? This is the best right guard option in free agency. And, I mean, you'd make a lot of people believers if you signed him. I know he's coming off a fractured tibia. He's managed to stay healthy for the duration of his career, and he's improved as a pass blocker and a run blocker year by year. Fries is an above-average athlete with good agility. He's good enough in space, shows power as a run blocker, and it has a sturdy anchor. I think Fries fits what McDaniel and company want to do from a zone blocking schematic fit standpoint too. Spot Track has Fries cashing in at about $14 million a year. PFF has him projected about $14.3 million a year, which would probably make him a pipe dream for us Dolphin fans, but I'm hoping the injury lowers his value a bit, and Greer shows us he's taking upgrading that interior seriously. And number 1 on my list, he is not a free agent yet, but I expect him to be. Kirk Cousins. I think whether you're talking about free agency or the draft, with the Falcons expected to release Kirk Cousins, he just makes perfect sense as a backup, like I've been saying since the season ended, on my top contingency plan options at quarterback. We don't really need to expand on the fit and familiarity, as it's well documented that McDaniel is part of the Washington staff that drafted and groomed both RG3 and Kirk Cousins, so he'd fit right in. He may not be ready to accept the fact that he's a backup now, but at 38, looking like he did off of that Achilles injury, the options in terms of joining a winning team with an opportunity to fill in for a known injury-prone quarterback may not be better than Miami for Cousins. That said, I do expect him to be much more like his normal self before the Achilles this season, after another offseason removed from it. But I think when you talk about the accuracy and understanding of what's required in this offense, that's needed for it to really hum, there may not be a better insurance policy out there than Cousins when the Falcons release him. Brissett and Minshew made $8 million a year as bridge players. Jared Stidham was the top-paid veteran backup quarterback in 2024 at $7 million a year. I'd offer Cousins $10 to $12 million if I had to. This team needs to win and can't afford to automatically be out if Tua misses games. The roster's too good, and there's too many jobs on the line. So those are my best free agency options for the Miami Dolphins in the 2025 draft class. And yes, I get it. One of those guys is not even a free agent right now. I get that. It is what it is, though. All right? That's just... I think Kirk Cousins is going to get released. I don't think they're going to find a trade partner. And I don't think they're going to sit around with that hit. And, like, I don't think he's going to get a starting job. I don't. I think he's going to have to accept his role as a backup. So we'll see how it goes, but I just don't see him getting a starting job. Could I be wrong? 110%. Will I be wrong? I don't know. So those are my top 30 free agents. I'm sorry for the issues with the stream there. I've never had that happen to me before. I've never had a stream suspended while playing film. I really think it was because of the NFL Pro watermarks in the top left corner, and I've learned my lesson now. So I will not be doing that. So I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to start in Seattle. They're either going to roll with Sam Howell, who they traded a 3rd-round pick for, or I think they're going to they're in on Sam Darnold right now. The word on the street is Seattle moved off of Geno because they think they're going to get Sam Darnold. So we'll see. So, listen, man, it bugs me that I didn't get to put all my all 22 in there because I'm telling you, there was some Hufanga. I mean, there was some, that Dre Greenlaw all 22 was fantastic. The Will Freeze front was fantastic, but it is what it is. I did a lot of work chopping it up for nothing. So, listen, smash that like button. I don't ask for it, but donate if you can because this is going to get demonetized. Donate if you can. Smash the like button. I need you to get the likes up as much as possible on this stream. Smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. I'm going to be live. If anything breaks, I'll be live on Sunday. If not, I'll be back on Monday. I'm looking to drop the first big board on March 18th. We'll be doing quarterbacks. All right. So I don't foresee the same issues with the all 22. Now, obviously, college all 22 always has its own issues, but I really do think it was on the watermark today. All right. So smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. As news breaks, I'll be here. Tampering window opens up 12 p.m. on Monday. Free agency opens up 4 p.m. on Wednesday. We'll have you covered right here, all right? Smash that like button. I'll see you on the next one. Fins up.